Unscripted.
You know, Sony's loss could be Microsoft's gain, and what I mean by that is there is obviously a lot of news out there lately regarding what Sony's plans are doing, including the idea that they are basically kind of shutting down the idea of doing smaller games and things like that. Now, how will this work out for Sony and fans that are used to it? I think that it really kind of depends. Microsoft, on the other hand, it looks like they're more on a buying spree than anything. Like, they're willing to do anything to get games into Game Pass, and I think that's been proven pretty obvious lately by the ability to get stuff like Outriders or even MLB The Show 21 into Game Pass day and date. Now, obviously, their studios themselves are hard at work on games and things like that. And despite the way that I pretty much kind of go in there and poke a little bit of fun at the length of time it's taken to actually get some games going, I had to be the first one to admit that, I think that in a few years' time, they'll probably be really set in that they'll have games coming out pretty regularly. But it's getting to that point that's going to be tough. And I think that's why they started to do this day-and-date Game Pass stuff with the third-party games, because, they need some kind of Band-Aid. They need something. They're realizing that they don't have big exclusives on the horizon. I mean, yes, Halo probably this year, but that doesn't carry the weight that it used to. And, who knows if it's going to be a Halo game that we're used to as fans, given the fact that the multiplayer is free to play and they're using it as this kind of thing that's going to last 10 years or whatever in terms of like the story and whatnot. So is it going to be finished? Is it going to be a beginning, middle, and end? Like, how is this going to work out? I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. But Microsoft has done a fantastic job of kind of picking up the scrap heaps of what Sony would normally do, and even going out there and trying to bring some of the stuff in that Sony usually would have as a exclusive. You know what I mean? Like, even the Yakuza games, those were exclusive, and there could be even rumors of some of the Persona games actually coming to Microsoft platforms as well. I mean, we'll have to see how that kind of turns out. But again, we even had that report the other day, and I did a video on it. It looks like Microsoft, studios, at least a few of the games, Fable, you're looking at Everwild and Perfect Dark, three big ones that a lot of people are looking forward to. In fact, some might say those are the ones that people are most looking forward to, are still years and years away and could potentially be a next generation away, So Microsoft has a lot to do, and obviously they're trying to sign a lot of things and get a lot of things out there, to get their, to help out Game Pass, because without first party stuff, you need some kind of stuff out there to do something. And it does look like this is going to be their tactics going forward. And is that going to be a good tactic going forward or bad? Like, I don't really know. I think that we'll have to kind of see how this works out and see how everybody kind of handles this. But yeah, I wanted to get into this because this was very interesting. First of all, we know this because I did a video on it. Kojima, okay? Big name. Some people like his game, some people don't. Apparently, he went to Sony first, according to this, to try to pitch his new game, and Sony didn't want to have anything to do with it. Now, I'm not sure exactly why that would be the case, but, apparently that is the case. And, we have to kind of just take that for what it's worth. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't really know. But according to this, there's details that have emerged. Hideo Kojima has been closely associated with the PlayStation brand for as long as the former has been around. When he broke ties with Konami and reformed Kojima Productions as an independent studio, he immediately signed on with Sony for Death Stranding, a PlayStation console exclusive. Now, recent reports, however, have suggested that there might be a major paradigm shift coming soon, and that allegedly Xbox and Kojima are close to signing a deal for the studio's next game. And now that's a pretty surprising twist if it does end up happening, and may well have been, many people have been wondering why Kojima would pivot it away from Sony and towards Microsoft. Well, apparently that may not have been his first choice. In a recent bit of a podcast, an insider, quote-unquote, I use that air quotes, stated that Kojima Productions originally went to Sony with a pitch for their next game. Sony, however, was not satisfied with how Death Stranding did commercially, and as such turned down the offer to work with Kojima again. He also suggested Kojima may have been in talks with Google and Stadia for a while, owing to the fact that his game apparently makes a lot of use of cloud technology, but that ultimately talks with Microsoft progressed further. The Microsoft Kojima deal is apparently close to being completed, so if it does happen, we might be hearing about it quite soon. Kojima Productions art director did recently mention that the studio's next game would be announced in the near future, so we probably won't have to wait too long. Now, the rumor was that Kojima went to Google Stadia and actually had a Google Stadia game that was canceled when Stadia canceled all their exclusives and all their projects and closed down all their studios. So, we do have that sort of situation that sort of happened. Is that going to mean the be-all, end-all when it comes to this? Like, no, you have to take all this stuff with a grain of salt, but it is very interesting nonetheless. And one of the things that I found to be really interesting was the fact that, Kojima is possibly doing something for Xbox. I just felt like that's not a really good fit. Like, I have an Xbox. I think Xbox is great. They need games for sure, but I'm not sure like shoehorning a Kojima game on there is very much the way to do it, because it's really just fanboy fodder. Like, fanboys are going to talk it up, but most people didn't like Death Stranding. Like, I happen to like Death Stranding. I thought it was a very interesting, unique game, but like, especially on the Xbox side, they don't like cinematic games, allegedly. So, and Kojima tends to do some of these weirder ideas. But within the past week, there's been a lot of new reports stating that Kojima is actually very close to a deal with Xbox, even though it's not finished just yet. But it does sound like things could be moving in that direction quickly. This is very interesting. Just to see how, there's no real, I guess, loyalty in gaming or anything like that. So they want to say that, according to this, regards to Google and Kojima, that the partnership ended up falling through due to the changes that, Stadia made for their own games as well. And how things are kind of working out and things like that. As a whole, keep in mind that the details have not been verified outright, so you have to take everything with sort of a grain of salt just going forward. And it does make a lot of sense that Kojima would try to do anything in terms of getting people excited or whatever about the future of his games and things. I know, especially since, I'm a big Metal Gear fan. Now, don't get it twisted. I don't like all the Metal Gear games. The last one, I wasn't a huge fan of. Like, I liked 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought those were fantastic games, and 2 really blew my mind. I remember I remember being kind of having mixed emotions about that one, because quite honestly, the way that they had that set up, and you thought you were going to be Snake, and you end up being Raiden, and I can understand why people were a little bit upset with it, but for me, the moneymaker was the first one, and I played it. That was the first game as like a teenager or whatever, where me and my friends did like a all-nighter where we stayed up all night kind of taking turns beating parts of that game and trying to figure things out, and it was just like so many great memories. And I think that he's done some really cool stuff. Yeah, he can be a little bit eccentric and get a little bit too much into the idea of having the whole cinematic experience, and a lot of people didn't like Death Stranding, but again, a lot of people didn't try Death Stranding to see if they really liked it or not. So how does that really kind of change anything? Or I think that's really kind of a weird situation when we look at this and we go, well, how is an Xbox Kojima collaboration going to actually work out? Is it even going to be worthwhile for both parties involved? Again, we don't know exactly how many current subscribers are in Game Pass, but what we do know is that we could be seeing a situation where not the games come out and not everybody is really on board, or not everybody really cares. Like, if you look at, not everything that releases on Game Pass gets 10 million players or whatever. I mean, you look at Battletoads, I think they announced 1 million or whatever it was, and at that time they supposedly had 15 million subscribers on there. So just because you release something on Game Pass doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a huge success or anything like that. But I would be very interesting, and it is odd that Sony would kind of they would pass up on something from Kojima and let the competition have it. It could end up working out very well for Microsoft, and it could be a huge mistake for Sony. We'll have to see, but for me personally, I think that it might be a bit of a mistake because you obviously have a larger audience, especially in like Japan and things like that, and you don't want to give Microsoft any kind of leeway to get something done over what you're doing. But with that being said, I will say I appreciate everybody watching. I'm Crapgamer. This has been Crapgamer Reviews. Have a great day. Rack 'em up. Crapgamer out.
Unscripted.